Listening is probably the most talked about and requested leadership discipline that I've ever encountered in coaching. If I asked 100 leaders, 1,000 leaders, they would all say to me, JD, we could listen a lot better than we do. Why is that so? Why do so many leaders admit that listening is the one thing that they could always do better? I think it's because all of us have a natural accumulation of experience that as we go along in our careers and we know more and we learn more and we acquire more knowledge, automatically we're drawn to depend on that knowledge. And we kind of get onto it by default, you see. So we come upon the situation, and then without being aware or regulating the quality or the accuracy of the information that we draw from our own little database, from our own storage system, we just simply walk right in automatically and then lay down the existing framework, what we expect to see, what we think we know, right on the situation. And this loads us up into a voice of judgment, where our judgment leads us out, dances with us in the present moment, and basically informs our perceptions as if it were a fact. So without testing the accuracy of our expectations, our models of the world, we forget we have a model. We all have them. We have beliefs, we have assumptions. But when we fall asleep and we fail to see what's really going on, this makes propensity for a lot of errors, what we call attribution errors, which is to see partially, but not see the full picture, not see the playing field. Now, in the arts, it's very common practice for one to study the capacity to learn to see, to be able to see more clearly, to teach oneself current reality just as it is. So you'll hear about the painter who goes and sits and watches to see the picture, the vista, to get a more direct experience, a direct representation of what is being represented on the canvas. So too must we do this in our relationships, at business and at home. We must not take for granted the ability to really listen. Now, for 20 years, I've taught active listening to leaders because they all want to learn how to listen more. I really need to listen more. Have me have this listening as if there's some thing that has to be cured or some problem. The deficit has to be solved. We have to stop the problem. What I often ask them is, what is listening really a function of? Why do you need to listen at a different level? Why bother with learning to listen more? And I think it's because there's something that happens when we go past that automatic mind stuff, the downloading that comes in from the past, where we bump into things, we meet life in an intimate way, in a participatory way, where we are conserving acceptance. We're conserving acceptance of the present moment, of the life that's here. And there's something really juicy about that. I have to be careful about that word, right? Because juicy, what does juicy mean? Well, juicy means, the way I'm using it, the context in which I'm using it, is something phenomenal happens when we are direct with our experiences. What does that mean? It means that we're not imposing our own window on the world, or the dirt that we're putting on our own window, we can wipe it off or remove the curtain and see what's there. The juice is insight. Insight, to come into sight of something, to see new things in the ordinary, to look again. The word respect means to look again, to respect the life that is present right here. Now, when we're preoccupied with the future, when we're worried about having to control something or whether something's going to happen, We are predicting something. We're trying to forecast or see or analyze what might happen, and then we base our decisions or our movements on this. And we must realize that the future is not predictable. We know the path by walking. This is a courage that we all have in us. It's innate. To show up. To show up. To meet it. To meet it just as it is. In its form, not in our way of seeing it. Because if it's our way of seeing it, then we will only see what we perceive. And therefore, it may not represent what's really going on, which requires some effort. Some effort to turn inward and to reflect on how what we assume might reduce the validity in itself of the moment. So what if we walk into this moment non-reduced? It means I'm regulating my own mental models, my own automatic judgment. I'm putting that in the bleachers and offering to myself the capacity to see with an open mind, to see beyond my experience, to see separate from what I know, to see it versus to see me. Because if I see me, then I'm using something that I already know, loading it up in the slide projector, projecting it on the wall, and claiming that it's true. When it's really not. So it makes room for fallibility. We're all bozos on the bus because we have beliefs that we impose on this reality that we see, or we think we do. So all the thought is something we associate when we are not regulating it. We just buy into it. We believe everything that we believe, and we don't have to. So how do we regulate it? Well, we have to realize that we have a mind and we have a brain. And the main function of the brain is it's the mechanism. It's there to reuse information because it's efficient. So when you sleep, you take out the stuff you don't need. You make space for the things that might be useful. So when you come upon an experience, you're confident and certain you know what's going on. But you're editing. And editing, like we said, blocks access to seeing insights, which are key to changing our history. To understand something new is a change of world. To understand something from a different place, that which we see changes. See, we can shift the inner place from which we are attending. And this is why teaching just active listening is artificial. Because without the sincerity or the awareness level that is qualitatively higher, how can we truly comprehend from different organs of perception that are within us? That being open mind, open heart, and open will. Now, our open heart would suggest that it is not closed. So a defended heart, or as we say, an armored heart, is one that is organized out of a lot of cynicism. Stay away from vulnerability. Don't feel that way. Don't go to the negative. Don't get hurt. No pain, please. Protect oneself. Don't take those risks. Oh, no. Let's not go to that level of intimacy. We can't hit the truth that hard. Because we have had experiences, all of us, in our families and in our love life, where we were hurt, rejected, where we were hurt. We didn't get what we expected. Right? That's the learning track of life that presents itself as we go. That's the curriculum. That's Earth School. One moment you're up, one moment you're down, one moment it goes this way, another moment it goes that way. Things will change. That's permanent. Everything is in a state of flux. So there's an honesty here with how powerless you really are and how powerful you are to make choices. Not just choices in response to something that's coming towards you. That's in reaction. But choices on behalf of truly what matters to you. And that's the place from which you can play the moment, is to know what really matters to you. And I think 95% of people out there really don't have a clue, nor have they really taken a fearless inventory of what matters to them. And they have some pretty strong assumptions as to why they don't. They might not get it. They might be discouraged. Why bother? Why wish for things that I love or want or what are important to me? I might not get them. So close it up. Why even try? It's defeatist. Something fatalized from the get-go. I believe I am powerless. I believe I don't have the power to create what I want. So any attempt that I might make, it'll backslide. I'll just simply outlaw it by this underlying structure or this thought that I don't have the power to create what I want. I'm not the predominant creative force in my life. So guess what? Circumstances become that. And then, of course, it becomes, how do I posture myself or stand in the world in a way where I cannot get in trouble? I cannot get hurt, right? I got to look after myself. Got to be my bouncer now. Yep. Got to swat those mosquitoes. Nope, don't want those. Whoop, get those mosquitoes out. Swap them. Hit them. Send them away. This lousy world. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want this. I don't want that. And we're in this sort of eliminative motivation of knowing what we do not want. Lack. Watch out. We're in a identity to defend against a world that is unfriendly because we believe it is. And some of it is. And there are bad things out there. And there is negativity, of course. But we're loving beings living in a world that has all sides of it, all the polarities, all that stuff, greed, judgment, power, cynicism, fear, shame, which bring out competition, dominance, mastery, individuation, separation, and a whole other cadre of elements that torch our mental health. But what we do have, and every one of us, is we have the capacity to remember something, to remember we're a soulful person, that we are the eye behind the eye. Yeah, we're not identified with our personalities, unless we think we are. Fear, sure, it's powerful. We have to learn how to be afraid. We can be present to it. Shame, we can learn how we tend to become the mistakes that we make. I am a mistake versus I made one. Big shift. So what do? Do we cut ourselves off from the past? Do we just build ourselves with all the potential that we translate the past? We transcend it? We complete on it in some way? We clean it up to go forward? I don't think so. I think you'll spend a lot of time working on that and get drawn away from creating. Creating starts with love. It doesn't start by working on yourself. It starts by getting skillful at creating something that you want to bring into being. Creating relationships, creating anything, your life-building process, how you intend to invest your life spirit, toward what? Your business creations, your health, your finances, your relationship with God, your hobbies, your personal life, all the different elements that live in it, people you love, how you want to spend your time away, your free time, creating your leisure time. Creating is a process of bringing something desired into being. It is about the heart. It's not about the head. The head has to figure it out. The head would never create because it's too enormous for the head, because the head has to know. The automatic mind says, no, I'll create something that's attainable. I'll do what I know. But creating, when you talk shop with a creator, an artist, a person who's bringing something into being that doesn't exist, it's separate from what you know. There's no room for certainty. Some things are conventional. You already know. You'll have to take stock of that, but other things you won't. And that's the fun of it, is figuring it out. The process is an end in itself. It's rewarding. So we have our hearts, we have our minds, we have to use them. So the mind is what regulates these models so that we can understand better the current reality we have within the creative process that we are creating, that we are doing. We're using it. We have to discern what's really going on, not judge it. Judgment would mean that we are imposing our own, downloading our own information. But discernment means we're seeing what's going on as it is. It's an it orientation versus a me. Well, we also have to understand, or can understand, the other. Yes, the other awareness. I and thou. The other. Them. Not just me, not just it, but them. The I in them. You've had this, you've done this when you come to understand things from a place of third person, what we call the ethnocentric orientation, which is the heart, the empathy, the compassion, to see things from the other, to hear the voices other than your own. A great path of leadership is the empathic leader. To understand things at the level of others' experiences. We can't know their experiences, that would be arrogant, but we can conserve acceptance and legitimacy. To understand even the worst in people, how they show up. We can observe them without absorbing. We can see negativity without being negative. Because we don't make it about ourselves. Creating is not about identity. See, when you're creating something, you're not being somebody. You're not preoccupied with your opinion of yourself. Whether you're feeling on, off, adequate, inadequate, high self-esteem, great self-confidence, all those things that we've been sold as prerequisites to create what we want, bullshit. It doesn't matter what we think of ourselves to create what we want. When you become skillful at something that you're creating, skill is something you can build, no matter what identity you have or what opinion you have of yourself, whether you think you deserve something or not. You just desire something for the sake of it. If I created a poem right now, it's because I desire to create one. The current reality is I take stock of the current poem I have, or maybe I don't, or my skills, or whatever I can tell myself to give me a baseline or a starting point. So we must open our hearts and invite ourselves as self-authors of our own life by answering our own questions. What do I want to create? What really matters to me? What do I want to be known for? Yes. Where am I right now? How am I feeling right now? What am I doing right now? What am I doing on behalf of what I'm creating? What are some of the biggest obstacles that stand in the way of my creations? That is the way. How will I transform them into action with experimental ideas? Yes. Do I need a guarantee? Do I need to make sure everything will play out well? I suppose if I did, I'd be constantly getting ready to get 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 ready. I don't need to be getting ready. I just begin. If you want to create a business, start creating a business. If you want to write a book, and you want to learn how to write a book, write a book. That's right. We learn by doing. Because we know by the doing that we do. We don't always do by everything we know. So when we trust the doing, we figure it out. The way through how is yes. You just start. That way your courage and your choice making can deliver you learning. Data that you didn't have before. That's the heart of the matter. Learning. Learning and creating are the same. So, do you need to work on yourself? I don't think so. I think a lot of self-improvement doctrine has told us to because it's marketing. That it told us that this is the way. And we gave authority to that. because we didn't have an alternative to compare to. We didn't know how to create. No one ever said or made a claim that creators don't get too caught in who they are. Who they are, what they think of themselves, really doesn't matter when it comes to creating. It really doesn't. You just create for the sake of something you want to create. And you learn as you go. And you turn that information into your next steps. And then you get better at something. Oh, yeah. And then you have momentum. And then the next moment that you're creating it, you're more effective because you've been creating it. Yes, you went through foolish stages. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, it was easy. Yes, there were natural talents. No, the work that was involved was required to get your creation as you desired it. But you don't compromise. Compromising is for given-ups, not grown-ups. Given-ups give up on their dreams because they don't have the intestinal fortitude or the tolerance that's needed. So as you create, you begin to develop this kind of tolerance to hold space, to hold the space for something unknown and take a meaningful leap into that uncertainty. And as you do, all those activities that you make, the disciplines, the rituals, the ideas, the actions, deliver you into how. So you make strategic adjustments. But if your identity is involved, you're going to get hurt. You're going to think it's about you. It's going to define you as a person. No, it's not. Where you are, what you have, what you do does not define you as a person. We got to peel that back. That's folly. Where you are is where you are. Sometimes you'll be a prince. Sometimes you didn't do it right. So those two are great feedback points. They're learning. And as you begin to create things, you develop kind of a tough skin. You're not avoiding something or being tough. There's nothing to be. You're just reporting the truth to yourself. You're learning how to tell yourself the truth. And then I think there's a deeper listening that not only are you gathering from the other, perhaps that are involved, because most of the creations and goals we create, we don't do them on a solo trek. It involves other people. But I think there's a deeper place, one that really involves the deepest, most generative listening, where there's something quite mystical in the creative process, where we sense something standing in need of us. The leader stands at the door of his purpose, or she stands at the door of a great calling. And I've never known a leader not to talk about this, of something deeply in a sacred project that's latent within them is needing to begin. And some of it has to do with place. Is the right place, the right time of listening into those serendipitous confirmations where things begin to open up because of our deepest intentions. But we begin to kind of conceive of something that matters to us as the way to scratch the lottery ticket, to begin that scratching. And then as we do, we step into something that we discover. The improv is something that comes after the action. The action that we take is intentional, but the improvisation is something we discover through the action that we take. So if I'm writing a book, I'm learning how the book needs to be written while I'm writing it. The book is talking to me. I'm sensing who that book is going to be in the hands of. There's something in the book that's the dream in itself. I'm the servant. I'm the messenger. I'm something or some vehicle that needs to bring this book to the world as it desires it of me. There's something I grant power to that feels whole, that feels like a tractor beam, that feels like a pull that must be. What is that? It's a dynamic urge. It's an urge that is an unstoppable, loving urge, that is a very friendly universe, that is informative and says, hey, this is your place to take in the ecosystem. It begins here. Are you going to answer it? What are you going to do? Now, if you don't take this input, this place to take that I'm talking about, I think it shows up in people's lives in very interesting ways. Depression. When we stay put and we stay static, we don't get ecstatic, which means to leave the familiar. When we don't leave what we're safe with, what we're secure with, when we don't leave our status behind, then we can't get to that next level. There's no breakthrough. There's no courage. All there is confidence, and that just wears you into boredom. You're not involved in the creative process. What I love about creating is that when you open your eyes and you open your heart and you honor differences and you have that third person orientation, the artist is standing separate from the canvas as a metaphor. There is a separation between the creator and the creation, that which is being brought into reality. The musician is making the music, creating the music. The entrepreneur is creating the client, creating the relationship. The husband is creating the marriage. Creating. This principle of separation is essential to be able to see what's really going on. And therefore, we can make a range of choices because we're more fluent and we can see the options. And sometimes it requires slowing down, bringing the tempo down to a cadence where we can see things as we go, but it's very personal. While other times we may hit hard like staccato in music, where we're running, not like legato, where we're slow. And so there's variations. Do we look for satisfaction? No. Because many days when we're creating, moving towards things that we love, there will be lots of suffering. And suffering is not a signpost that what we're doing is wrong. We don't need to get oversensitive with how happy we are or unhappy we are while we're creating. Let's face it, we're going to have bad days and good days, and those bad days, the show goes on, as they say on Broadway. We develop that kind of perseverance and toughness and tenacity because what we're creating matters. We don't need that kind of artificial commitment because we don't trust ourselves. What we're creating is what we're creating. We're bringing it into being as it is desired of us, or that which we desire to bring it into the world. It's either intention or attention, or maybe it's both. And as we connect to a larger place in the world that stands in need of us. We translate that voice into our own, into our authentic self. So as we see subject matter around us in context that are the defining features of our work and the defining features of our future selves, we must immerse and reflect. What inspired me today? What moved me today? What touched me today? What challenged me beyond the familiar today? What amazed me today? What's moving in me? We must look to those signals. What really matters to me here? This is a moment of awareness. So the key is don't fall asleep. Amnesia, don't fall asleep. Wake up. We can use the energy of every experience to conserve something, to awaken to something new. Every nuance, when we're creating, becomes alive and vibrant because life is a learning ally. Current reality speaks to us. I've often heard the purpose of data is for reflection. Is to reflect on when we move something in a system, we're able to see what the system does. That's right, because in leadership, we are creating in structures or systems. We're creating in cultures. We're creating in society. We're creating in relationships, where we move one thing and another thing is affected. When we set a goal and we have a current reality and relationship to it, the gap in between seeks resolution automatically by nature's law. It's called structural tension. So like a rubber band spread beneath our fingers or between our fingers, when we spread it out between our vision and our current reality, we're holding that tension. There's life there. It's not a void. It's not empty. There's something ready there. There's something alive and animating that needs to be done, that needs to be completed as we hold it. But we must remember, though, to hold this open will. This open will is about letting go of the concepts of fear, that our concepts are what editorialize or edit life, edit us. And we can see from outside those by seeing concepts. And those concepts, I fear humiliation. I fear that I might be embarrassed. And therefore, I am dominated by avoiding that, right? It's a concept. But in my higher values, I can choose what matters most. Maybe the relationship matters most. Or maybe a desired state matters most. or a goal that I'm trying to get to matters most. But I can consider what matters most to me. That's simple. That's simplicity, yeah? So if I combine the open mind by suspending judgment and moving my discernment out front, seeing what's really going on, teaching myself reality as I go, and I remove myself or cut the cord on my cynicism to disconnect and move the third person, which is to see as others are and to hear the person behind the words, not just the person saying them, but hear the person where they are, to be where they are. There's a form of respect. And I found that leaders feel more of themselves more than ever when they get to this place of this sort of sensing perception that they can see as others are feeling or see as others are experiencing their world. The great entrepreneur goes out in a marketplace and goes to all sides of the sectors and sees the industry from different points of view and comes to understand what he or her must do on behalf of the voices that he or she hears as they deep dive and immerse into the space. They take those meaningful leaps into uncertainty, and this yields vision, agility, clarity, and understanding by taking that open heart. And then this open will is to trust the emerging future possibilities that are coming into the now, that are entering us at every moment, unfolding as we walk, and making contact with a very innate wisdom, a perennial wisdom that we have within us that is there priori to our experience. It's in us. It's conserved. It's conserved in our level of evolving as the capacity to create increases when we focus on what we're bringing into reality. The mother wisely learns how to be the mother for the baby as she raises the baby. She never knew how to be the mother, but something in her was already there, seated in her, as she experienced the knowing in the doing and the doing in the knowing. I think in some way, as we arrive in this awareness-based creating, we come closer to our deepest crystallized intentions. We crystallize intentions that deeply matter to us on many levels. Our heart, what we choose to use our gifts towards, place our talents upon, and what we're really meant to do. And when we know that, it's like we're turning in the direction of goodness where it's ready to expand. We listen to its call and its signals where goodness is ready to expand, yeah. Where we sense the emerging wholeness entering us and act from that place. We appreciate things, the blessings that are given to us, high and low and middle, in whatever life comes in. We don't turn our backs on it. We simply work with things just as they are. And there's a sort of meeting, showing up as a whole person and acting in an instant. So, as I put these words into your ear, hopefully I'm touching you deeply in your heart in how this process, this creative process of listening, of generative listening into knowing what you need to do in your instincts, in your felt sense, and following it because you know it's right, is a perseverance that doesn't require any guarantees. Just the process itself is its own reward. Knowing what you're doing is right is fundamentally choosing to be true to yourself. And that as you reflect on things going on in the life-building process that you're in and what's unfolding, as you relate the context to who you are and your emerging future self and how it connects with it, and the true work that you notice in you that's been threaded through you, that you know you need to be doing, that you trust it with unmediated faith. I think the greatest part of our soul is the presence of it, which is the mystery. To move into the places that scare us, but yet hold ourselves in a grounded way in the groundlessness by being so open and agile that we truly see the integrity, the integer, the wholeness in the ambiguities. We wait long enough, we stay long enough in the courses of action as we learn, as if the fisherman was putting the pole in the water long enough to catch the big catch, the tempo. So we begin with this place to be, this place to choose. What do I want to create? What do you want to create? What matters most importantly to you? You must listen. You must listen. And look around you with more penetrating awareness and clarity of how you take in the world and how you use that, what you can serve, and how that combines itself with a non-reduced intention of what really does matter to you. And that's very personal, because to love is to see. Is that as you see something, others don't see it the way you do. And therefore, it has a certain quality of resonance. Strength is resonance. Strength is resonance. So I ask you to do all of us a favor, to create things that matter to you, because the way you'll show up in the world with that kind of electricity, that kind of animation in your being, will bring to life for the community and everyone who depends on you and relates with you the glory of your gifts, because that is what really belongs in the world. And I hope you trust it. Thank you.